Welcome, everybody at home. It is I, Chris Moriarty Marks, the commissioner of the W&W Pokemon Draft League and coach of the Toronto Trick Roomers, back again with another week in review for week 2 of season 7 in the Draft League. As I normally am, I'm joined today by Ali and Caleb. Fellas, why don't y'all say hi?
Hey guys, it's me, Ali, Hipsterbrownkid Sheikh, coach of the Nashville Ninetales.
What's up, everybody? Caleb, the Seal Gulley here, Deputy Commissioner and West Texas Wingulls coach. Good night. Can't talk today.
You can't talk most days, it's fine. But
Yeah.
in any case, gentlemen, happy to have you back for another week in review. Unfortunately, we are burdened with bringing you guys some sad news. You may see the big red X here on the very sad Zebstrika. That is because, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Zambia will no longer be able to participate in the league. This is very sad for all of us, but it is what it is. And so going forward, all games that were previously scheduled against Zambia will become a bye week for the players, and division opponents will receive 2 points as though they had won the game, but there will be no game score modification or match record modification, nor any differential. And the same thing applies to their non-divisional opponents, but they only gain 1 point for the table. But now that we got the sad stuff out of the way, let's look at some of the fun stuff. We had some big free agency moves happening this week. Ali, why don't you take us through those?
Yeah, we did. Got Jersey making their classic 2 moves in a week, with the Latios being swapped out for the Cobalion and the Riolu being swapped out for the Malamar down in Tier 3. Then West Texas picking their Charizard back up, dropping the Snorlax after the 1 game. And then Nashville dropping the Colossal for the G-Max Caparaja. And Charlotte down in Tier 3 picking up that Tentacruel but dropping their Morgrim.
Yeah, and no trades this time around, so we'll get straight to the predictions. As you can see, Zambia, Memphis, that was a bye week, but we already had predictions in, didn't really know what the status of things were. So Chris does call the win because he called Memphis to win that. Ollie and I with another missed prediction. But we go to the Toronto Trick Roomers versus Charlotte Charizards. All three of us getting a point there, calling that game correctly. But we immediately follow that up with Chapel Hill and Nashville playing. And like last week, we all missed one. It happens. And then Jersey City versus the West Texas Wingulls, all of us getting a point there. And Ollie and I both tied at 4-4, and Chris just showing us up with a 6-2 prediction record. Don't know what he has in that crystal ball over there, but apparently it's better than mine.
I mean, y'all just didn't get on the Memphis hype train soon enough. What can I say?
No.
It's
Yep.
first mistake. Ride the hype. Right.
Yeah.
You got to feel the vibes.
It's
but
the shiny,
Yeah, the
it's the shiny
vibes.
stuff.
yeah, but predicting stuff is cool. But I think what most people are actually curious about in these videos is how did the games actually play out. And so with that, let's take a look at the first one, which was the game between the Jersey City Jirachi and the West Texas Wingulls, which, as was mentioned before, was a 2-0 victory for the Wingulls. In game 1, we saw it came down to this Rillaboom and Gigalith from the Jersey City Jirachi side facing down the Serena and the Incineroar, and the Incineroar able to get off some pretty good Intimidate cycling, so both of those Pokemon were pretty neutered on the Jersey City side, meaning that not being able to get the Iron Defenses off because of a taunt. There wasn't enough steam from the Jersey City side, and Incineroar Serena were able to clutch that out. And then in game 2, Jersey City brought it back with a much tighter game, with Malamar getting to, I believe, +4 in both defense and attack against the very physical heavy remaining portion of the Wingulls team. But luckily, thanks to sand damage from the Max Rockfall from Cobalion and the wildfire damage from the G-Max Charizard, Malamar got low enough that Gust of all moves off the Sigilyph was enough to pick it up and seal the series for the West Texas Wingulls, with Incineroar picking up the final KO. So taking a look at the stats over here on the Jersey City side, we see that Cobalion was the Dynamax in both games, only able to pick up the 1 KO and 2 feints. Rillaboom wasn't able to get off the ground in Game 2. Similarly, in Game 1 for Whimsicott and in Game 2, just never really found the position to be in. A sad finish to Game 1 for the Gigalith, left it at 0 KOs and 1 feint. And in Game 2, this Grapploct showed up just to get KO'd turn 1. Bit unfortunate there, but the Malamar was almost the key to success for Jersey City, as we can see that 1 use in Game 2, picking up the 2 KOs and the 1 feint. But now moving over to the West Texas side of things, we can see the man holding the star, the franchise Pokemon themselves. It's Incineroar, used twice, 2 KOs, 0 feints, huge Intimidate cycling in Game 1, able to clutch that one out, and able to help seal up Game 2 as well. Another strong candidate for that was the Charizard, which did max in both games, picking up 2 KOs and 2 feints. Leopard there for some supportive help. The Serena being super clutch in Game 1, picking up a KO in each of the 2 games. And the Sigilyph picking up that all-important KO in Game 2 against the Malamar. And let me tell you, there was a Seeking on the West Texas team. But an interesting stat from this game was that every Pokemon from the West Texas side picked up a KO every time they hit the field. If you look at it, you can stat check that real quick. I'll give you a second. 1. But that did it for this game.
Yeah, and following up in week 2, we had the Chapel Hill Haluchas playing the Nashville Ninetales. Chapel Hill coming away with a 2-0 win in their first ever game in the W&W Pokemon Draft League. So they came out strong, showed us that they belong right off the bat. We're excited to have them in the league. Great first game and showing for them. But a quick breakdown of how these games played out. Game 1, we saw Togekiss Magnezone from the Chapel Hill side matched up against Wheezing Regigigas. That Togekiss causing problems with Yawn shutting down the Gigas, which led to Urshifu closing out the game, not even needing Dynamax Game 1 for Chapel Hill, picking that up with a 1 differential in Game 1. Game 2, we had Chapel Hill leading Turtonator Togekiss against the Caparajah Doug Trio from Nashville, that Cantonian Doug Trio, actually. Turtonator immediately swapped out. Magnezone came in, caused some issues. Magnezone KO and a Quillfish who had Wakanberry, didn't matter. Urshifu closing that one out with Max Knuckling and Dynamaxing in that game, plus 3 differential to Chapel Hill. So very dominant game, very well played by Chapel Hill. But looking on the stats from the Nashville Ninetales side, 1 max, 1 KO, 1 feint for the Regigigas, the legendary of choice for the Ninetales in Game 1. Paired up with that Galarian Wheezing with 1 usage, 1 feint, as well as you see the Haxorus with 2 usages in both games 1 and 2, with 1 KO, 2 feints. Quillfish, same situation. Actually, the KO leader for the Nashville Ninetales this series with 2 usages, 2 KOs, 2 feints with that Aqua Jet damage, picking up anything with low HP bars left over. Then the Caparajah with 1 max, 1 feint in Game 2, paired up with a weakness policy with 1 usage for the Cantonian Doug Trio with 1 feint. But from the victor's side, the Chapel Hill Haluchas, led by the MVP, the Rapid Strike Urshifu G-Max Edition, with 1 max, 4 KOs, no feints, the absolute star. Paired up with the Togekiss with 2 usages, 2 feints, had a lot of Yawn support, had Follow Me, kept things interesting by putting things to sleep. Turtonator with 1 big turn with a Burn and Jealousy to stop the weakness policy Caparajah with 1 usage. That was all it did in Game 2. Magnezone showed up in both games with 3 KOs, 1 feint, great supplemental damage, and Doublade, not Honage, with 1 usage, 1 KO, 1 feint showing up in Game 2 with a fun little ally switch shenanigan. And there was a Crocodile sighting in Team Preview, and that's all we saw from it. But great win by the Chapel Hill Haluchas, and exciting to see how they go from here.
All right, so moving on to our last game of the week, we had the Toronto Trick Roomers versus the Charlotte Charizards. Toronto taking the series 2-0, but don't let that deceive you, because both games ended with a differential of 1, so only one Pokemon left standing. Toronto coming out with their star, the Behemoth, followed by the Tier 1 Comfy, the Salazzle, the Alolan Doug Trio, the Wailord, and we saw Tangrowth in Team Preview, and that was about all. Then from the Charlotte side, we had their Legend Thunders, the Big Goodra, the Amoonguss, the Hitmontop, the new Tentacruel, and my favorite, the little Charjabug. So going through game 1, we started off with a Behemoth Doug Trio opening versus a Thundurus Goodra opening. Behemoth maxing right off the bat and just taking control of the game. Salazzle coming out about midway with some toxic support to break through the bulk of that Goodra, and the game boiling down to just the Wailord and the on top left standing, the really big and the really small. The hit on top tried to close out the game with a close combat into the Wailord, but just did not have enough damage, and Wailord was able to pick up the KO and seal off game 1. Going into game 2, we saw Doug Trio Salazzle from Toronto and Goodra and Amoonguss from Charlotte. The Amoonguss was actually swapped out into the Tentacruel, which took an unlucky high horsepower from the Doug Trio, taking an easy one-shot, so we did not get to see what this brand new Tentacruel was going to do. But again, the Salazzle getting off that big toxic onto the Goodra to just wear it down over the course of the game. And even with the battery support from the Charjabug, it could not do enough to seal off the game when the Behemoth came back out at the end with a big Dynamax and closing out the game. Looking at the stats over here on the Toronto side, we've got both game maxes for the Behemoth, 4 KOs and only 1 faint, an absolute tier 4 monster. Then we've got the Comfy, used 1 time, no KOs, but with 1 faint. Got the Salazzle putting in a lot of work, used both games, 1 KO and 2 feints. The Doug Trio putting in a similar amount of work, same 2 uses, 1 KO and 2 feints. And the Wailord showing up in game 1, fainting once. It did not faint, I don't think, but it did get the KO at the end there.
Yeah.
And then
whoever made this made a typo there. They're terrible. We should report them.
But yeah, so moving on to Charlotte's stats, we've got the Thunders at the top with 1 max, 1 KO, and 1 faint. The Goodra being the star of this week's team with 1 max, 3 KOs, and 2 feints. The Amoonguss doing its job as a support, 2 uses, no KOs, and 2 feints. Hitmontop, pretty similar, 1 use, 1 KO, 1 feint. For the Tentacruel, there was 1 use. The unlucky swap led it to no KOs and 1 feint. And the Charjabug with 1 use and a very proud 1 KO and 1 feint.
Yep. Was truly an incredibly close series. But with all the games having played out and us seeing how they did so, it's about time that we take a look at what that did to the overall standings. Caleb, why don't you take us away?
Yeah, week 2 table, some things stayed the same, some things did change, but one of the things that stayed the same was Chapel Hill staying in first place with the 2 points, with a 1-0 match record, 2-0 game score, 1-0 non-division record, and a +4 differential topping the table. But their division counterpart, Toronto Trick Roomers, with 2 points, the only team with 2 points with a 2-0 match record and a 4-1 game score, 2-0 non-division record, and a +3 differential, tightly contested there. The Memphis Machamps right behind them from the home division as well. with 2 points, 1-0 match record, 2-1 game score, 1-0 in non-division, and +3 after the bye week. And then in the 4th place slot and the 1st place overall from Sino, the West Texas Wingulls with 1 point, 1-1 match record, 3-2 game score, 1-1 non-division, +4 differential. But right behind them, their division counterpart, the Nashville Ninetales, with 1 point, 1-1 record as well, 2-3 game score, 1-1 in non-divisional play, and a -2 differential. And rounding out the Central Division is the Charlotte Charizards with no points, with an 0-2 match record, 1-4 game score, 0-2 non-divisional record, and -5 differential. And then from the Jersey City Jirachis, rounding out our table with no points, 0-2 match record, 1-4 game score as well. 0-2 in non-division and -7 overall in differential. So, and then Zambia there, we've already touched on that situation though.
Yeah, so just looking at the divisions overall, moving on to Sino, we've got West Texas in first place with their 1 point with a +4 differential. Nashville coming up in second with the same 1 point, but down to a -2 differential. And Charlotte in third with no points and a -3. And our non-existent Zambia Zepstrikas. And then moving on to Hoenn, looking very strong as usual. We've got 2 points for the first place overall and division, Chapel Hill Haluchas with a +4 differential. Got 2 points for Toronto with a +3 in second place. And the same 2 points +3 for the Machamps, with the tie being broken in favor of Toronto, looking at the game score being 4-1 for Toronto and 2-1 for the Machamps. And then in fourth place, we have Jersey with no points and a -7 differential.
Yep. Hoenn supremacy showing up once again. But as a little fun treat for Sino, due to Zambia's withdrawal from the league, it does mean that luckily for the Sino teams, all 3 teams will automatically qualify for the playoffs. Administration is currently looking into possible adjustment to the playoff format to bring all 7 teams, but as it currently stands, that's not finalized. So congratulations to everyone on the Sino side for qualifying for playoffs. Yay, woo, let's clap.
Yeah, we did it.
But as with all things, we've looked at the past, we've looked at the now. There's only one thing left to do, and that is look into the future. Gentlemen, it's time for your, my, and everybody at home's favorite part of the day. Let's make some predictions, or we already did. Let's take a look at them. We've got some super exciting matchups coming forward this week, starting off with the Chaos Incarnate matchup between the Charlotte Charizards and the Jersey City Jirachi. I can guarantee you, me, and neither one of them really has any clue what's about to happen. And that's what makes it so fun to watch. Really looking forward for that one. For the first time ever, we've got the Battle of the New Bros, the NC showdown between the Memphis Machamps and the Chapel Hill Haluchas. Another really exciting matchup. And to round it out, we've got the old school Hoenn Hoedown Throwdown, absolute barn burner of the past 6 seasons between the Nashville Ninetales and the Toronto Trick Roomers. And West Texas Wingulls would have been playing Zambia, but now that has been converted into a bye week. But gentlemen, there's a lot of consistency here. There's definitely some disagreements, so let's dive right into it. Ali, why don't you take us through all 3/4 of your predictions?
All right, so looking at this Charlotte versus Jersey City game, I believe Charlotte has the edge here just by looking at those rosters on paper. I think they're pretty evenly matched teams, which is why I don't think this is going to be a sweep in either direction. But I think with the just sheer amount of chaos and a little bit of draft difference, I think Charlotte will be able to take the series 2-1. Then we have the Memphis Machamps versus the Chapel Hill Haluchas. I think Chapel Hill is going to take this one 2-1. I think it's going to be close as well. But after seeing Chapel Hill in their first game, I think they're coming out as a really strong player, and that will give them the edge in this series here. And then our favorite match, the Nashville Ninetales versus the Toronto Trick Roomers. This is probably one of those games where I should have bet against myself, but I'm not going to do that. I know it's a very stressful match to prep for and play in. And as much as I think Toronto has the edge here, just draft and experience wise, I'm never going to bet against myself. So that's why I have myself taking the series 2-1.
That's fair. Respectable. But what about that West Texas Wingulls versus the bye week? Who do you think's going to pick that up?
It's looking like a tough match. Never know what's going to happen. I think West Texas might be able to take it.
A bold
It
prediction.
is a tough match.
It's gonna be close.
It's a tough one.
But speaking
Been
of
already
people,
game planning.
yeah. But speaking of people that are having a tough time getting predictions right, West Texas, Caleb, why don't
Hey,
walk us
you know
through
what?
that real consistent looking table prediction?
Yeah, hey, we ruled out any common thought. We're just picking numbers at this point. But we do have to get one of these games right, and you'll have to get one of these games wrong for me to make up games. So that's where we're at. But not really. We do actually think Jersey City can win this series 2-1. My thought process is that Cobalion, when we were facing it, if that guy gets set up and gets speed control, this is a really big problem for Charlotte to deal with. They do have ways to deal with it. But I think the Cobalion here is something that is a really good win condition for Jersey, especially if they use the Vaporeon well in it to deal with any kind of Cinderace shenanigans. The big thing Charlotte really likes to use is the Gudra, but it's at 2 series played in with 5 usages, so probably not likely to see. So I think that actually puts it in Jersey City's favor. 2-1 here is what I'm expecting, but we know not to expect anything with that series, so it'll be fun to watch. But I do think Alex pulls off a win here. But the fun one, the one I'm looking forward to, with the new bros from North Carolina joining us, we have the Haluchas and the Machamps. Flying type beats fighting type with the Haluchas, so we're going 2-1 Haluchas here. But I actually really think this is going to be a very close series, realistically. Parker knows John extremely well and how they play, so he's going to know some weird strategies that can catch them off guard. Might even take the series. But I do think that the superior draft from the Haluchas does prevail and picks this one up 2-1. Will be a very fun series to watch, as we've never seen this matchup play out. So that's going to be fun to see. But the traditional, very tough divisional matchup in seasons past with the Toronto Trick Roomers and the Nashville Ninetales and the Hoenn Hoedown Throwdown. We are calling Toronto picking this one up 2-1. This is going to be a very tight series. It always has been. It's one of those ones that it's always big playoff implications late in the season for these two. Always came down to who won the division from this matchup in seasons past. So I think after playing Toronto, they have the tools to win this, but Nashville definitely can put up a solid fight here. So it can go either way, but I am leaning towards Toronto picking this one up 2-1.
Well, I tend to agree with that logic, but yeah.
Hope you would.
Yeah, but most importantly, who do you think's going to take it, the West Texas Wingulls or bye week?
Bye week, 100%.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that one. But you still got to ask, right? So getting into my predictions, I agree with Ali on this first game. I think Charlotte's got some tools that's going to be hard for Jersey City to deal with. I think both of these teams have shown us that they're starting to grow into the season. I think both a little bit uncomfortable with their rosters, but both starting to make moves to fix that, trying to figure out and settle in on the team that's going to be right for playoffs. And so I think Charlotte has a bit of an edge here because some of those tools that they already have under their belt are super problematic for the Jersey City side to deal with. But if there's one thing we know, it's that will not stop Alex from winning games. So absolutely could pick up a game here, could pick up the series, could also just be a 2-0. But I do feel that Charlotte's going to pick this one up And then looking forward to the next one, the Battle of the New Bros. I'm very impressed by what we saw out of Chapel Hill in their first real game in the league. They showed us a lot of really good strategy. They showed us a lot of adaptation, especially with that opening in game 2 kind of being the counter to the predicted adjustment from his opponent. This guy's ready to think big game. He's able to recognize the adjustments and end games that he needs to play to. Really impressed by that. Absolutely still on the Memphis hype train, and I think one thing that Memphis really has going for them here is just the chaos of their draft. I think they've got a lot of weird pieces that you really have no idea what they're going to do with, and that could be a huge factor here in just saying, hey, nana boo boo, you can't figure out what I'm doing if I don't know what I'm doing, and bonk him that way. But we also saw some really good play out of Memphis in week 1. Gothatel's super good at punishing bad openings. Could be a possibility here. But I still like the Chapel Hill draft a little bit better. And again, after being super impressed by their inaugural gameplay, I give them the edge. And then looking at the Toronto-Nashville game, Caleb already kind of stole my thunder here, but this has historically been the closest games. This is the only matchup to ever finish a game where the winner had a negative differential at the end of the series in a best of 3, not even a best of 5. So absolutely insanely tight matchups. Usually matters every single year how these games go. And so going to be a tough one, but I think there's a little bit of draft diff here, and the Toronto team feels a bit easier to pilot. Nashville's got several tricky components that can absolutely be good if you're comfortable using them. I don't think we're at the comfort point yet here in week 3, so especially with some of the trades and moves and things going on, I like my chances. But somebody whose chances I don't like is the Wingulls. I'm calling that hard sweep. Bye week takes it easy.
Bye week OP, man.
Bye week is OP. But with that, I think we've covered everything we're meant to cover, gentlemen, and we've probably been tugging at everybody's ears long enough. Anything to say to the nice people at home before we apart for the evening?
It is bye week for the West Texas Wingulls, so we just get to sit back and watch week 3, man. It's going to be exciting. Got a lot of exciting games and series here. So I like to sit back and watch these, and it's just going to be fun. It's going to just be fun to sit back and watch the chaos.
Yeah. Ollie, anything?
I mean, sad to see Zambia go, but very excited for everyone else to continue to duke it out as we get those roster moves made. We get more experience with these teams. I think this is going to be one of the closest seasons we've had.
Yep. I'm personally looking forward to it. And if you'd like to catch it, you, the lovely viewer watching this, you can catch us on YouTube. If you're watching us on Twitch, you can just follow that QR code or look us up at W&W Pokemon Draft League. And if you're on YouTube trying to find more content throughout the week, you can find us over at Twitch at the following links over there: Hipsterbrownkid for Ali, the Seagull for Caleb, and Texas Two-Step Bot for Chris. But in any case, thank you all for watching. Thank you for watching always, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you guys.